Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and a love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit freedomlovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. freedomlovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. Final hour, the hour about love. I tell you, this show is really an act of love because sometimes I almost feel, why should I even bother to talk about these things? These are real stuff. I said one time before, this is not a movie. You know, sometimes we feel like we're living in some sort of a horror sci-fi movie, but it's real. But guess what? We're human beings. And when we see things are happening to other human beings, at least we need to have the courage to speak up. That's all I'm saying. We start with that. And when we learn something, because, there is always something new to learn, and we understand that this is real, how can you go back to sleep? How can you say, okay, next, oh, I don't want to bother with this, or it's none of my business. Like tomorrow you see somebody that, is begging on the street, maybe is being hit by a car, or even just an animal. How can you just go away and leave that person or the animal behind? Unfortunately, this is happening. I already told you before, last Sunday I had a guest, the first hour, that is not just the point of the target individuals that I really think we should learn more and more, because it's real. This is, unfortunately, I know, many of you still may think that this is some sort of a sci-fi movie. I wish. But there is enough evidence there, technology, patents, and declassified documents. This has been going on forever, or at least for a long time. So the point is, I had on my show just a few months ago a very credible lady with a great reputation. Working for one of the most important agencies in our government, or was supposed to be our government, right? The NSA. She became a whistleblower. She became a woman who wanted to stand for her rights. Also as a professional. She didn't just want to be silent just because there is some shenanigan going on. But from there, we had a situation that, according to her facts and evidence, she became a target individual. Now, that was bad enough, and people may say, okay, I believe it, I don't believe it, that's fine, it's up to you. I bring you the evidence like I did with Mr. Dude just last Sunday. But when you start to see a pattern that now American people, American citizens, just because they exercise their First Amendment and they say something that the government may not agree, they're going to start to get locked up into mental wars against their will, and they don't have any type of signs to endanger themselves or others. They just express the First Amendment. We should all pay attention, regardless you believe or not, into the target individuals, okay? Now, let me bring her back. It was great guest, great interview. Karen Stewart, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Good to see you. I'm not going to see you because we're on the radio, but good to talk to you again. At least
nice to talk to you as well.
I want to thank you for your time, our first interview, because it gave the opportunity for many of my listeners to learn and get more educated about this topic. So that was very important. Also, I saw that after the interview, and probably you did also some other interviews, but there was this sort of article, I call it sort of because for me it was like a hit piece, by the New York Times, try to make you look, in this case, with other target individuals, like a bunch of crazies. Do you remember about that article?
I do. It was yellow journalism. That's what you call propaganda. And it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I gave the gentleman, and I say that loosely, I gave him my story, And he said nothing about who I was or what had happened to me. All he did was quote one quote, and that was at the end of the interview. He said, "What do you think of the people who are stalking and harassing you?" And I said, "I never realized there were as many sociopaths in society as there are." And he tried to make me the poster child of crazy people, apparently. Mm-hmm. And that is not in the least a crazy statement. They've had research has proven that people are actually becoming more and more narcissistic and sociopathic in this society.
Yes.
So I think his hit piece failed. But it does show that the government was so nervous that some of us are speaking out that they had him write a ridiculous hit piece that missed the mark, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, and also another thing, I must give him that credit. Somehow, I don't know if by accident or maybe it was just, because they're trying to do partially the right thing. They post the link on the New York Times online of our interview. Of our little YouTube channel, my YouTube channel with our interview. So the beautiful thing was that the listeners, or at least the readers on the New York Times, especially online, they were able to click the link and to listen to at least your side of the story. And we have at least 23,000 viewers and growing every day. So there is somehow they tried to just say or write what they felt was appropriate for them to write, but at least slip through the crack the idea of our interview. And for people who has really the time and a little bit of decency to learn, to try to find out the other side of the story, they had the chance to listen and learn about you. I was glad about that. And
yes, I think that was a strategic mistake on their part that worked in our favor. And I do thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and have it there, for people to listen to.
No, thank you, because I tell you something. This is, for me, I have only 3 hours show, okay? It's a Sunday show. I don't have a daily show. I would like to talk about this more and more, because I really believe that among all the dangers that we are facing as humanity and as Americans, of course, we worry about many things, from the Patriot Act to the police state to taxation and the new funny presidency, all this stuff. But at the same time, if we understand the gravity of this type of weaponry that part of the U.S. government and other governments too have in their hands, technology, they can control your brain, they can change your mood, they can change also your behavior. When we understand this is probably one of the greatest threats against humanity and freedom. Because the point is, if they can manipulate my mind, can they manipulate your mind, they can keep a world under control, a bunch of zombies. And now I really believe, after the research I've been doing, of course, talking with you and other people like you, we are just at the first stage. This is like the test. They try to find out how it works with some of us. And then, of course, I'm afraid if we don't do something, they will unleash this nightmare to the rest of humanity. Now, listen, one thing I want to call you today, especially. First of all, I heard that, I don't know the details, but against your will, you were somehow put in a mental ward for at least a day or something like that. Can you give us details about that? Because this is, for me, very disturbing. And as I said before last Sunday, regardless people may believe or not on target individuals, if we can just focus on this type of power, then now the government can lock us up, any one of us, just because they don't like what we say or what we think. This is something we should all stay united as Americans, as human beings. Please, I give you the floor. Give us details.
Okay. Well, I had been targeted with electronic harassment from November of 2015 and still am targeted. And I had been trying to educate the Leon County Sheriff's Department as to what electronic harassment was. And I explained to them who I was, that I was a 28-year veteran of the National Security Agency, an intelligence analyst, and that the last 10 years of my career I had actually spent reporting on weapons development by other countries, as well as weapons technology transfer. So I knew a little bit about what I was talking about, and I was speaking to Leon County Sheriff's deputies who at most were usually high school grads. So I was trying to explain to them what was going on, and of course not being able to convey this to them all that well. It's like trying to talk to first graders. But I decided to start sending them links to patents on these directed energy weapons and information concerning microwave weapons, electromagnetic weapons, ultrasonic weapons, that type of thing, to show them that, yes, they exist. And so I sent them a flurry of emails, and they pretty much ignored them. And this continued, the harassment continued and continued and continued. And to my mind, it had taken, was very often very dangerous in the night for us. And I've said, I do come down from Maryland and live with my parents for about 6 months of the year in Florida. They're in their 80s, and my intent is to help them stay in their house as long as they want to and do certain things around the house to enable them to do that. But now my presence here has subjected them to this type of thing as well. And I do have dogs, and so those dogs will howl in pain when this starts up. And so I have tried to get the sheriff to go to these the homes of the people using the weapons against us, because they're basically locals who've been duped by feds and told, I don't know what, but they're paid. And you can tell they're paid to use this because they get new roofs, new carpets, and things like that. But they're paid to turn these devices on us each and every day. And so I've been trying to educate the Leon County Sheriff's Department as to what this was, the type of program it was, the fact that there were criminal federal agents behind this doing crimes in the name of law, and they have no right to do this. It is not legal for them to do this. So the Leon County Sheriff's Department on July 26th sent about 3 deputies out, one deputy and one detective, Deputy Panasuea, Detective Paul Salvo, and another woman who's a little bit higher ranking. I believe her last name was Hertz. But they said, well, we got your emails. And I said, that's good. And they said, well, we came out to check on you. And I said, well, that's nice, finally. Okay. And they said, and they asked me how I was. And I said, well, because you've come out here, they've turned down whatever emanations were coming in the house. I said, so instead of feeling burning right now, I feel burned, but it's a burn that goes through my chest, through my head, through my ears. I said, because it's an electromagnetic emanation. I have recorded this on my meters if you'd like to see it. I've tried to show you before, but you won't look, or you tell me, we don't know what that means. And I've told you, you need to go to the Florida State University Physics Department and ask them what this means, or you need to go to the Mag Lab here in Tallahassee and ask them what that means. And, they didn't really say much. So we continued to talk, and they said, well, if you're not feeling good, how about we call an ambulance?
Oh, gosh.
And I said, no, let's not call an ambulance because we would be doing this daily.
Yeah.
There's no need for me to go to the hospital today more than any other day. So they said, well, how about if you go to the hospital today and see what's wrong with you, and maybe we can help you. And I thought, well, maybe they are trying to help. So I said, okay, I'll go to the hospital, see if there's been any further heart damage, because there has been some heart damage done since November. So I said, okay, I'll go to have my heart and esophagus and lungs checked out, as well as my head. And so I went, and I got there just before noon, and they did some tests, and I sat there waiting for the results. And they were ignoring me, not giving me Motrin for a headache and not giving me anything to drink like water. And by 4 or 5 o'clock, I got tired of eating.
Are you still there? Hello? Hello, hello, hello. Karen? Interesting.
Take her act patients.
Karen, can you...
And I thought, oh my gosh.
Okay, listen, a question is, so you went to the hospital because you wanted to go as just a precaution, because you wanted to see how you were feeling. I wanted just to be sure I got it right. So you weren't forced to go there, like, for example, with Mr. Du. that Tyrone.
No.
No, good. I'm glad because that's very, very important. I wanted to be sure I got it down right. Now, my point
But-
is, you bring up facts, and as I said, everything we are saying here, of course, unfortunately, is not be proven in a court of law, but we have our own evidence, and I'm not saying this is the trial. I'm not saying that, but we need to start to use our own brain because, unfortunately, if we expect something from somebody else, like the government, or at least even the local government, it seems like they don't want to do anything. You brought to them facts like patents, documents, researches, pieces of science. I understand the local, probably deputy, it is not an expert to understand that stuff. But at the same time, they should not be dismissing you just because they don't know what you're talking about. That's my point,
Exactly.
I mean, maybe you say, ma'am, I understand. I don't know what you're talking about, but maybe we should find somebody in the department. I'm sure they can find somebody with a little bit of education on the matter. Then maybe say, maybe this lady, she's talking about something that is factual. It is not just her opinion. And what if this can happen? I mean, I'm not saying that everything is for sure. We don't know. But they should have the duty to investigate. Let's start with that.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I think you're asking for.
I told them, I said, I don't blame you for not knowing about this type of sophisticated weapon. I don't mind. I can tell you about it. I can show you links. I can direct you to your experts. But there's no excuse not to investigate it. I said, you have deputies, no doubt, who are veterans of the Iraqi war and Afghanistan. Some of them may indeed be familiar with directed energy weapons, which are not always giant. They can be mobile and fit in a backpack. And those are the ones that I believe these people have. Now, they tricked me into going to the hospital. They didn't force me, but they tricked me by telling me that if I would get checked out, then they might be able to help me.
Wow.
And then when I was there, they submitted paperwork to Baker Act me, which is to say, we want this woman psychologically evaluated, and the hospital told her up to 72 hours.
Wow.
So they didn't say a word to me about that. They got me there on dishonest reasons.
And when you were there, did they ask you anything about, for example, your mental status? They were trying to ask you if you were depressed or if you had any type of anxiety or things like a psychiatric or some sort of a shrink would ask.
No, the person at the emergency room dealt with my heart and whether I had a very bad headache or not, which I did. So he did tests appropriate to injury.
Good. Okay, at least
and then, but they wouldn't let me leave. When I started to leave, they said, you can't leave because you've been Baker Acted. And I said, are you kidding me? And they said, no, you've got to go through the process. And the process is that somebody's going to come and escort you to the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital Access Center.
Wow.
And they're going to question you about your psychological state.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they're going to decide whether they're going to hold you for 1, 2, 3 days.
Wow, that's very scary, because from something that you went in for, let's say, some sort of physical, for your heart, as you were saying, a checkup. Now we start to go into your mind and, they need to be evaluated. I mean, that's pretty scary. Normally, when I go to the hospital, say, I want to get out. Yes, I will sign the waiver. I'm out of here. Otherwise, I consider myself kidnapped and I won't put up with that. So, and I understand, but now they try to tell you that, maybe you need to evaluate it. How many hours did you spend at this hospital at the end of the day?
Well, I went to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital emergency room about noon, and about 5 o'clock, I said, I've had enough. Nobody will even give me a glass of water.
Wow.
So I started to get dressed to leave, and that's when they said, you can't leave legally. And I asked to speak to the ER doctor who had seen me, and he said, yes, you were Baker Acted. The deputy came in, filled out a form, and submitted it, and said they wanted you psychologically evaluated for sending them emails concerning directed energy weapons. And I said, do you mean to tell me that one person's stupidity and ignorance makes them think that another person is mentally unfit. And he kind of laughed at that. And I said, because that's not what it means. One person's ignorance is not another person's insanity.
Exactly.
And so he did. He kind of laughed. He said, well, you're right. He said, but you still have to go through this process. We have to escort you over there. You have to be evaluated. And then they will decide how long you stay there. So at about 5:30, they took me over to the Access Center. And I thought, well, most of the time people go home at 5 or 5:30. I wonder if I'm going to be stuck here overnight. So I was ticked. I was really ticked off, but I was trying to still be nice to people. And a psychiatric nurse interviewed me, and I told her, what I had done, sending information about this type of thing. I told her I was a federal whistleblower and that I had been being viciously harassed because the National Security Agency wanted to thwart and sabotage my lawsuit against them. And I told her, I said, go ahead and look my name up with NSA and whistleblower. And I said, read about it there. I said, I'm just going to give you a short synopsis in speaking with you, but go ahead and read about it. It's better that you do it that way. And she said, I will. So I went into a room to wait, and it took several hours for other people to get processed and other things to be done. And finally, the doctor who was going to see me or evaluate me came in at 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And the psychiatric nurse went in to talk to him. And within 15 to 20 minutes, he came to see me, and he said, Mrs. Stewart, there's nothing wrong with you. He said, we're letting you go. Do you have somebody to pick you up? And I said, yes, I do. And so I thanked them both for not allowing stupid people to ruin my life. And they said, come by and get some paperwork saying that we found nothing wrong with you and you'll have it for the future.
You know what is really disturbing, Karen? First of all, the fact that they trick you. You said the right word. They send you in because, hey, maybe you have some pain on your heart or things like that. And then you went there, let me go check my biological, all my checkup. And then, just because, as you said, somebody else ignorance, or maybe even there is more the ignorance, I believe could be also like happened with the Tyrone Dew. There was a plan. There was a conspiracy. I mean, all they need now, all government needs is just a phone call or say, you must evaluate that person because we say so, because we think we know, or we think we guess, or whatever. And the good thing is that this time you were spared maybe the treatment that Tyrone Dew had to go through for more than 10 days or something like that, because maybe you found a decent human being as a doctor, say, you know what, yes, you are nothing. But the point is, the same person that, the same type of doctor that was evaluating Tyrone, say, hey, I'm just following the orders because they told me, the Secret Service told me to keep you here. So this is scary. This could have been turned out in a nightmare. Okay, maybe just because this was just the local sheriff, it wasn't the Secret Services. Go ahead.
Yeah, they were looking to discredit me so that they could have an excuse to not help me. Now, here in Tallahassee, Florida, I'm not sure if I would credit them with conspiring, but I think it was petty vindictiveness because they didn't want to do their jobs because it was hard, because it meant that they would have to think outside the box and actually take initiative. And this is not the type of department under Mike Wood that the Sheriff's Department is. I think he's a horrible law enforcement person who doesn't want to do his job. He just wants to get along and basically skate along and not do anything. And that's what these deputies reflected.
No, I understand. And this is sad because meanwhile they are playing with your life. And the fact that just because they don't want to deal with you, it's easy to say, she must be a crazy one. Just go, doctor, just check her out. I mean, this is very serious, by the way. It's happening more and more. And there was, Tyrone said something very important just last week. There are new pieces of legislation now that make it much easier, even for family members. Let's say you have a family member that doesn't like you, okay? Now your drama can be much, much more hard to face these doctors. And by the way, as a human being, the first thing normally when you feel trapped, even like an animal, they put you in a room and they say, now you can get out because you need to give us answers. I say, wait a second, what you want from me? I want out of here. I don't know you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm fine. And then you start to go crazy. I mean, it's normal. I would go crazy. Seriously, somebody tried to lock me up without I've done anything. And that's what they want. That's why I say, always keep it cool. And let's try to use our brain more than them, because this is scary. Now, we were talking about after our first interview, and we talked via email a few times. And, I appreciate your help, by the way. I'm trying just to find solutions, because I really believe what you're saying more and more. There is factual things. This is not just opinion. And I'm not saying that everybody out there, because they claim to be targeted individuals, they are. Don't get me wrong. I believe there are also people out there that maybe they have other problems. But I believe deeply that there is a plan, there is a conspiracy against humanity, against, for now, a selected group of people to test this type of technology for very dark purposes. I believe in that. There is the evidence. I came to my own conclusion. I invite everybody out there, the listeners, do your own researches. You don't need to trust me or Carrie, but at least have an open mind. Now, I tell you something. After our interview, I had things that I already talked with Tyrone, and I don't want to repeat again. We talk over via email. But I believe that there are also ways we can start to fight it back. Even just, first of all, talking about it, so we don't feel like we are crazy or you're crazy. There is something that is very important. When I see now these message boards out there, I understand the purpose. People need to start to find out that you are not alone, number one. What is a message board you would like to suggest for people that they may think that they have this situation of targeted individuals?
That would actually be a very good idea.
You
I like that idea.
Why don't you start a message
there
board?
Might be one. I'll look into that. I really will. I actually have made a contact with the group Anonymous, and we are talking about what to do and how to approach this.
Okay.
And that's a fabulous group of people.
Great. Because,
fabulous.
It would be great to have a message board. You can open a WordPress, a blog. There are different ways, and very simple and free too, just to launch it out that people can get together, exchange ideas, even just to feel, hey, don't start to do crazy things because you are not crazy. Maybe, something's happening to you, And I say maybe because we don't know every time. Every time can be different, okay? But I think it's important. And then find solutions, because I think, we can still have that type of, we are not defeated. Till we are alive, we can fight back. I believe that. I understand that. There are many ways that, and I say love. Love is one of the most powerful weapons, compassion from other fellow human beings. Right there, it can be a very great weapon. And more important, also, I believe in diet. I believe in healthy living. I believe in a little bit of things that you can do to stay away from some situation that they may have more influence on you through technology. For example, for me, I don't know if I am a target individual. I don't know. All I know that after I talked to you for a week, I had things in my mind that I never had in my life. And I don't do any drugs. I didn't change my wine. It was still my organic wine I drink with dinner. So nothing, I don't get drunk. I just have a regular, very healthy lifestyle, okay? But after your conversation, I had like almost 2 weeks. I said, oh my gosh, somebody's talking to me. This is weird. Okay, let's put it in this way. So maybe I thought it was just suggestion, okay? But the funny thing I was noticing that I was in some situations when I was in some part of the cities or the town. I live in a rural America. I don't live in the town. But when I go in some town, close to some antennas, or close to some houses with smart meters, I was feeling changes of moods, changes of things that normally I don't feel. Then suddenly, all stop. That's all I can say right now. But that's something we need to look into that. Listen, I want to ask you something very important, if you can. Don't you think that we already are, for at least, look what's happening right now with these elections, okay? We are pretty much on the open, that there is not really any type of, let's say, system. The people's vote doesn't count. If you are a Democrat, you should be right now finally aware that you are just a part of an illusion, that you were voting just to appease yourself, to appease yourself. After the scandals with the emails proving that Hillary, forget about Benghazi and all the other charges that she should have, but the fact that DNC, the Central Committee, they already knew that she was going to be the one, and no matter how many Bernie Sanders supporters and votes, nothing was going to matter. Don't you think the fact that humanity, or at least American people, they're already under mind control, maybe not just through the technology that we are talking here, but maybe through the television, the diet, or other factors? I mean, right now, I don't think anywhere else, at least our founding fathers, would have started a revolution if they knew that all these elections are rigged. What do you think? Are we under mind control?
Well, you know what? I think you've hit upon something. I saw somebody create a meme that said the founding fathers would be shooting by now. And that was a very good meme. They had a good point. I do believe society has been dumbed down. I think that the schools have been basically instructed to not teach our proper history and to take God out of history and out of our national conscience, because we were founded. Each and every charter of each of the 13 states was basically dedicated the founding of that colony to God. So we were founded as a Christian nation. Now, if you take God out of it and you don't tell us our history, then we lose who we are and what our purpose is, and the fact that we do have a special audience with God, okay, to ask for blessings and to get instructions from him. Now, they've been removing that from America for several decades. And not only are they erasing who we are in our own minds and our children's minds and our grandchildren's minds, but they are stealing our inheritance by doing so. And then they're coming in with foreign ideas like socialism and communism and telling people this is what you need to do, which is totally un-American. So they have been attacking us with psychology for many decades. And if you start to add into that frequencies that control mood, and then you basically start to chip people, which is horrible. I found out about that after I had become targeted, because other people are chipped, and so they get abuses even more so than people who are hit with directed energy weapons, because this type of chipping can actually make you vulnerable to attacks where nobody else can feel it but you. So that's horrific. And I think they've been testing the directed energy weapons on random people, or, you've heard about birds that all of a sudden there'll be a flock of birds that are dead on the ground. Well, what happened?
Yes.
It has to be that somebody hit them with a directed energy weapon to test it, or fish that all of a sudden they're all dead in the river and nobody knows why, and there aren't any toxins in the river, or the whales and the dolphins that beach themselves for no particular reason, well, because the Navy hit them with sonar and other things like that to test. So this has been going on a very long time, and you don't practice with something that you don't intend to use, unfortunately. So some of us are being hit worse than others for speaking out. Some people are random experiments, and I found out that basically there seems to be a good old boy club that basically says, hey, if you target my wife, or maybe a woman says, if you target my husband, I'd be really appreciative if you could throw this person into this program. So people are now being put on lists out of vendettas, and just petty, ridiculous vendettas, and also whistleblowers and people like that who these corrupt officials feel are inconvenient. We're being put on these lists. And the lists are not only for experimentation, but the lists also seem to be fake terrorist watch lists that they use to go into communities and say, oh, this is a bad person. You need to basically surveil them, which is code for stalk and harass.
I see.
And it's called community policing, and they're trying to tell these people that we are somehow a danger. And so they create problems. And then when problems are created for the targeted person, and the targeted person may react, like calling the police or, take further actions, then they pretend as if that person took the actions for no particular reason. So it is really an incredibly broad conspiracy, and I hate to use that word, but it is a conspiracy.
Oh, it is.
People are being culled out for abuse.
Conspiracy means that two or more people together, they put a plan to conspire against somebody else or against the nation. Okay, this is a conspiracy. They try to commit a plan, a nefarious plan, to enslave us.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, to drive us crazy, whatever you want to call it. But the point is that this is not a good behavior. These people have, unfortunately, they are breaking so many laws against humanity, not just regular laws. Listen, I have to let you go. I have more things, unfortunately, but I really appreciate to be in touch with you, because I tell you, this is so important. We need to be all in touch with each other, because when I start to see people that don't answer anymore to the phone, for example, I had no idea that you spent just a day in that facility, okay? Like, for example, people may start to go out and disappear. So we need to be in touch. And I want to make a public statement here that I love life. And I don't want to, of course, I would never take my own life because I believe that would be immoral against my beliefs. Okay, my life does not belong to me, belongs to God. I really believe that. And so in case something happens to me, you know where I was. That's nothing like that. And I hope it's the same for you. I don't want to speak for you, but just on the record, you are always willing to leave, right?
Yes. I will tell you that I believe exactly what you believe.
Okay, perfect. So, this is important. People say, you're crazy, guys. I'm not crazy because we are on record today, okay? That's the bottom line. They may tell us, make us say things that we never said. The point is, today is going to be played exactly August the 14th, 2016. Karen Stewart and Luca Zanna were on record. We don't want to die, and we are here, and we are peaceful human beings, and we are not crazy. That's the bottom line. We can think, and we can articulate. Okay? And we are bringing facts and evidence. Unfortunately, today, of course, saying the truth can be called you crazy. I understand, but that's another story. Now, listen. Thank you very much, Karen, and please be in touch, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, listen.
Absolutely. You too.
You have any website or anything you want to say before I let you go?
I don't have a website. Maybe I should look into that. But
Please.
I'm hoping people will be encouraged by the fact that if you get snatched up in one of these attempts to discredit you, if you just speak logically and be patient, that you may get somebody who's very intelligent and honest, and they may say, get out of here. There's nothing wrong with you.
Very good. And, just my little input, maybe, I don't know, put in the back of your mind. It wouldn't take much. Maybe somebody out there can help you out to create something with your domain name, a blog that you can try to talk and reach out to other people and find solutions. Just an idea, okay?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. I got a little bit of news, a little bit of music. Try to enjoy life. I'm having a beer. And you know what? No matter what, they will not destroy our humanity and our happiness. And I tell you, I found my little secret about happiness. And I tell you after this segment, okay? Don't go away.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Here we go, guys. We are back on the air. This is Luca Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.FM network. This is the final hour, final segment for the hour. We just heard this great lady. My opinion, she's a great lady. Former NSA whistleblower, Mrs. Karen Stewart. We were talking about also happiness and also love. I mean, this show for me, it is an act of love. To come here on the air and keep talking about this topic, in this case, targeted individuals. That many people probably, I don't know, maybe 90% of people, I don't know. I don't care. Can laugh at me. They can think, oh, another one of those. Guess what? I don't care. I don't care about really what you think. All I care that at night I have to go to sleep. I gotta look myself in the mirror, and I gotta look at my soul. And I say, you know what? I may not change the world, but I do everything I can in my little humble powers, even just through this little humble radio show, to broadcast information and facts that I think they are important. Important because I want to give you these facts and you can decide. And it's up to you if you want to, start your research and find out really what's going on. I'm not going to force you. I don't force anybody, but at least I would like to give you the input. And then it's up to you. And then one day, at least I can say to myself, I've done everything I could in my limits, with my limitations. That's the bottom line. Now, meanwhile, regardless how much of a torture and pain and misery, I think really we can face in general, in life, because life, after all, is not exactly easy. You think it's easy? What do you do the first thing when you are born? You cry. Sorry to ruin all the poetry, but as much as I love life is tough. It's always a challenge. I don't care if you are, of course, if you have a few billions dollars maybe stashed somewhere, probably it's going to be a little easier, but it's all relative. Because our condition as a human being, it's always an evolution. It's always a challenge. No matter how much you think you have, it's not about anymore having things. It's about who you are, who you want to be. And there's always something more that you would like to do. So it's always a journey. And as I said, of course, for the average man, average woman, top, you have to face reality that probably other people don't have to worry about it. But still, even them, they have that type of challenges at a different level. So that's my point. Happiness. How do we reach happiness? If I really knew the final magic formula, I'd say, you know what? Probably I would be rich. But it's not about being rich. It's not about even finding the extreme or the final formula. It's about finding your own way, at least my way. This I tell you what works for me. No matter what they can do to us, no matter what type of, let's say, pain or misery or government we may face, and corruption, and of course all the things we are already facing now, think about it. Living under Obama for 8 years, that's really a torture. I don't care how you slice it, And regardless, you must carve moments of peace and happiness no matter where you are. I really believe that at the end, freedom and happiness are a state of mind. No matter where you are, you can find it. Regarding happiness, this is the way I wrote a little poem. I read it just maybe a couple of years ago when I started the show. But I wanted to share with you again. This is part also of my new book, Lyrics and Poems by Luca Zanna. You can find it on Amazon pretty soon, and if you go to www.zanna.us, you can join my newsletter, and I'll let you know as it's available on Amazon. So anyway, the poem is pretty simple. It's a very simple little poem, and it's called Happiness. And I show you for me what means happiness after all. Small little simple things. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to have fancy cars. You don't need to really, wait for tomorrow. You can be happy right now with whatever small little things every one of us can afford. Okay, Happiness, a poem by Gianluca Zanna. A glass of wine, the smell of coffee, my mother's pasta, a kiss from you. My cat is purring, the birds are singing, a brand new gun, the sky is blue. Smiling at the sun, driving my truck, praying to God, searching the truth. Happiness. Simple as that. So that's the bottom line. At the same time, I'm not afraid, as I said. I'm a human being, of course. Fear is part of our nature. By the end of the day, if you can rationalize it, if you realize that no matter what, you're going to be dead anyway, one day, eventually, that's for sure. Why should be afraid? Why? Do what you have to do. Say what you have to say. Confront evil. Stand up against it. Because at the end of the day, why should be afraid? You're going to be dead anyway. And I'm not saying that you need to, of course, start to face a lion in a cage or things like that. Life is precious and be smart. But at the same time, do not live like a sheep. Okay? When you think you have something right, like for example, look at my first guest, Ronald O'Donnell, okay? It's a man. It's an older man. It's a retired man. And you know what? When you go against a political leadership in your area where you live, and it's not just a regular political leadership, we're talking about in the DNC, like in any party, there is the mafia. I don't care how you slice it. And you go against the Clinton, you don't like to kiss Hillary's ring. I mean, how many people are dead so far? Kind of, there is a list out there, okay? So that's my point. That's why I say you have to find your own courage. But at the end of the day, this is your time. Use it. Now, this is enough about my little philosophy and happiness and stuff like that. Now, I would like to talk about something that is very disturbing. I believe it's really something that make me completely mad. You know very well that the state of California, it's already now mandatory vaccination for all the little children and minors who attend public schools. That's terrible. I mean, seriously, it's as bad as you can get. But when you see things like, for example, right now in Hawaii, that a family, they had a newborn, and this poor little baby, the first thing they wanted to do to him, like normally they do standard, but in many states, thank God, you can still say no. They wanted to force him to give him at least 6 vaccines the moment that he's born. I mean, this little baby still doesn't even understand what's going on, and they're going to fill him up with a bunch of vaccines. So what happened? Let me read here. This is an article directly from, there are several websites that bring it, but I give you the one that pretty much is the main Truth Kings, okay? Baby taken away after refusal of vaccinations at birth in Hawaii. Beautiful little baby. Think about the mom and dad. They were all happy. They say, okay, great, finally a healthy little baby. Troubling news from Facebook.com after parents refuse vaccinations after the birth of their child in Honolulu at the Kapiolani Medical Center for Women and Children in Honolulu, Hawaii. The father, Paul Hansen, lists himself as owner, spiritual advisor, energy healer, spiritual teacher, artist, author. Whatever, that's fine. That's his business. I couldn't care less. I have a lot of things I can say about myself too. Anyway, apparently, the refusal of forced vaccinations immediately triggered the hospital and the CPS, Child Protective Service, to turn on the family. The hospital said to just call and cancel if we couldn't make it, and so we did. We canceled after making an appointment with our licensed naturopathic doctor. Next thing we know, we got a police officer showing up at our door telling us we need to call some social worker, which is the hospital trying to intimidate us into using their services. So this is the father talking, of course. So we called the social worker from the hospital and leave a message because she didn't answer the phone. She did not call us back, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line, they wanted to give this little baby vaccines. The father did not allow it. CPS took my baby, directly Paul Hansen on his Facebook page. They arrest Paul and I, the wife. The parents post bail. Police said my baby was taken to Kapiolani Hospital. She's not here and none can find my baby. Please, someone help me. I just want my baby in my arms. This is the mom and the dad writing on Facebook. I need to also, Paul Hansen, I need to friend this guy. Now, think about it. Think about it. If you think this is right, I don't care what you think about vaccines. First of all, yeah, educate yourself. Seriously. But now the government wants to force you to load up your little infant just born with vaccines that normally even an adult should get, full of mercury and other things that are so bad for you, for God's sake. I mean, seriously, wake up, okay? But if you don't get along with their propaganda, if you don't comply, because of course that's another, you know the story. These vaccines, they are so good that of course there is immunity from lawsuits, okay? Think about it. For these big pharma companies, they can even get sued. But if they get found guilty, we pay with our tax dollar. The government is going to pay eventually one day. Pretty hard to, by the way, to go after this type of lawsuits. But eventually, we pay with our tax dollar. So why they are so good, this stuff? It's the biggest mafia. This is the biggest scam. The point is, government has no business to give to any of our children, all these poison. And what if we refuse? They take our child or our children. That's worse than the mafia. I tell you, the mafia has much more honor. Okay, that's the bottom line. This is disgusting. All I can say, we gotta really wake up, because in many states now it's mandatory. Look in California, look in Hawaii. I mean, for God's sake, Hawaii, it's another place that you really need to stay away. I went to Hawaii when I was younger, before I moved completely to America for a vacation, and that's it. That's all I can take. Okay, maybe a week. Now it gets even worse. So that's my point. First they take your guns. Look in California, pretty much now, all you can have is a slingshot pretty soon, and you have to register also your ammunition and blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. But then, of course, they're going to show you who's boss, because they control and they own your children. And pretty soon they will do mandatory also vaccines for you. Already now, if you work in a public structure like hospital, they mandate that for you. No matter what type of poison they put in these vaccines, mercury and all these preservatives and stuff, you got to get them. Otherwise, you lose your job. So that's the bottom line. They first take your guns, and then they'll take your life, and they enslave you. That's why this show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. I tell you, love is, yes, it's our first weapon. Love means compassion. Love means understanding also that without our humanity, we are nothing. Okay? How can you motivate yourself without love? Then, of course, we got to understand that freedom must be defended. Freedom starts from basic things, like, for example, what you should be able to eat. The right what you can decide what you eat. And you also the right that you should be able to know what you're eating. Think about it. I talked before during the first hour with Mrs. Denise Ben-Susan. She's a Democrat. She's, of course, she was for Sanders, but she voted for Obama. And, of course, now she disappointed from Obama. But still, to make it spell it out, that the piece of crap of Obama signing and siding with Monsanto, this dark, how do they call it, this freaking completely bill that completely forbid to label, and we have no anymore the right to know if the food or the type of vegetable or plant or whatever you're eating, it's a GMO, and Monsanto signed it. And I still had to make her spill it out that Obama is a traitor. Obama doesn't give a damn about the middleman or the local guy. This Obama works for this New World Order, for these corporations. He's just another political whore who sold his soul to the New World Order. As simple as that. So Hillary, so all of them that they are up there. I don't know about Trump. He may be an idiot, maybe another puppet. I'm not that sure. But for sure, he has, at least on some issues, some other things that normally we don't hear from this complete establishment. I'm not a fan of Trump, as I said, but if I had to really at least have an illusion for 60 seconds, I will give it a try, because I tell you, on the other side, there is no hope at all. And you already know. If we get Hillary right now, this country is going to be gone. Period. There is no hope for recovery. We already passed probably the point of no return. We have $20 trillion, for God's sake. We have this Obamacare has been destroying us. And this is the 20 trillions is just the one that we see. Then we have all these unfunded liabilities and SSI and Social Security and Medicare. It's impossible to repay. This is a complete debt based on fraud. The private Federal Reserve controls and owns this country, holding it by its balls. Sorry to be graphic, but that's the truth. We would not have all this debt if we would not have the private Federal Reserve. And I'm sorry, I need to remind you every time I can, because I hope I can wake up one more listener. Think about it. Every time we need a dollar, we don't have anymore the type of sovereign right as a nation to print our own dollar. We have to go to this cartel of bankers called the Federal Reserve, that is private. Since 1913, they've been pretty much printing dollars out of thin air, and now they don't print anymore anyway, it's just digital. But guess what? For every dollar that they issue, we have to pay the interest. So think about it. And every time we need more programs and more wars and more garbage and more frauds and more international aids, they are happy because they get rich. And more important, it's not even about money for them anymore. They make money out of thin air. They don't need money. But they control us. They enslave us. That's the bottom line. It's about control. So let's wake up all together. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, we all slaves of this private central cartel of bankers who controls the government. And then you have the illusion once every 4 years you can go out there and vote and you think you're free. But guess what? You are as free as probably a slave during the plantation time. But the plantation time, the slaves, at least he knew he was a slave. No, you have the illusion to be free. As I said many times, you think you own the property where you live in, your house or your piece of land. Guess what? Stop for a moment paying for a couple years property taxes. You will see that all you were doing, you were paying the rent to the master. Okay? That's the bottom line. You think you're free, right? You think you own property. No, you do not own. You lease it. Same story with your income. You think you have an income. Guess what? Nothing changed since the time of kings and lords. Remember, what happens if somebody takes 100% of your income? Like a slave. You are 100% slave. Great. But at least slave, master, he gives you food and probably some medications, healthcare, stuff like that. You're taking care. But now the new type of plantation, the slaves, must take care of themselves. So you don't pay anymore 100% of taxes, but probably about, in Italy, for example, 78%. Or here probably about 60% or something like that. We're going pretty much to that level now. If Sanders or that political whore of Hillary Clinton jumps in. When you pay 60% or 70% of taxes or your income, what you are 70% slave. So you're pretty much a slave. That's it. I gotta stop. Anyway, guys, I want to say thank you very much. And I want to invite any one of you out there who wants to have the opportunity to be with me on the air, even just to start your own radio show. I want to help you out in every way I can. Okay? So I want to have co-host. People wants to be on the air with me, 10, 15, 20 minutes just to warm up, and I give you all my little humble experience to start on your radio show. We need more of us. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna, and please, if you want to support this show, don't forget, go to zanna.us, www.zanna.us. You can download any of my songs for just 99 cents, or you can go to zannacoffee.com, and you can get my wonderful, super delicious, super duper coffee, organic coffee, and you support the show. Thank you. God's willing, I'll talk to you next Sunday. And if you want to listen to this broadcast, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Ciao.